Order. Order. Question. Order. Question number 8. Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Does she stand by all of her answers to oral question number 12 yesterday?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, yes, in the context that my proposal is not to flatten out the current funding rates across different year levels. The proposal is aimed at establishing a per-child funding rate that reflects the teaching and learning challenge at the different levels of the curricula. The publicly available Cabinet paper that I quoted from in my response yesterday acknowledges in paragraph 33 that an effect of this proposal may be to even out the current variance of funding levels. As previously stated, Mr Speaker, these are all proposals and I look forward to receiving the advisory group's report.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, yesterday in my primary question I asked the Minister about her proposal to flatten out funding rates. That question was authenticated by your office using the Cabinet paper that the Minister has just referred to. I used 4 supplementary questions yesterday and another primary question today to get the Minister to answer what was in effect the primary question yesterday that was actually authenticated with your office. So I ask you to give some consideration to Mr Speaker to what remedies the opposition has when a Minister stands up and denies something that is authenticated in a primary question and then forces the opposition to waste multiple questions in order to extract that information from them.
I'll certainly have another look at the Hansard. I had a very careful look at it yesterday. In this case, the primary question today was immediately answered by the Minister. I will have a look at it and may come back to the House. Will certainly come back to the member. But if members is suspicious that there's been a case of misleading the House deliberately, then there is a quite appropriate path for the member then to follow if he thinks this incident warrants it.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
I'll hear from the Leader of the House.
I'm sure at the same time you'll analyse the questions that were asked by the member so that the answers given are relative to the question answered.
I can assure the member I'll analyse the questions as much as I analyse the answer. Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
So why did she state yesterday, quote, "The proposal is not to flatten out the level of funding," end quote, given the Cabinet paper she just referred to stated, quote, "The likely effect of a shift to a standard per-child funding amount aligned to the expected attainment at each level of curricula will be to flatten and even out the current variance in funding between year levels."
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, the member seems to be suffering a misunderstanding between a proposal and an effect of a proposal. I'm happy to table the full Cabinet paper, which makes it clear that the proposal is for 3 components of a student-based rate, where the first component is linked to the learning level of the curriculum. The second component is to the level of risk against a child not being successful, and the third proposal is a component for isolated small schools. Each of those proposals will have different effects, and depending on what is finally arrived at, we will know the actual effect. But the proposal is not to flatten, it is to provide a student-based approach.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Does she think that in a consultation exercise that the members who wish that the public who wish to express a view on that are going to be interested in the effects of a proposal rather than necessarily the proposal in a completely abstract form as the Minister has just suggested?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Of course the public is going to be interested in all of that, and that's why these papers have been up on the public website for over 3 months, because we've not only shared what the direction of travel is, what the purpose of it is, and what the actual proposal is, we've also explicated what some of the likely effects might be so that there would be informed comment. That's precisely the intent.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Did her Cabinet paper further state, quote, "There is evidence the distribution of funding could better reflect the per-child investment required to achieve the level of attainment and progress at each level of the curricula," end quote, If so, how does she propose calculating the per-child investment required at each level?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, econometrically. Yes, that's exactly how we want to work out what are the complexities. For the current system, for instance, we have higher funding rates at the beginning of the system at the end. We have the lowest for levels 4, 5 and 6, where we are seeing some of the biggest achievement challenges occurring. Now, surely the member and the House is interested in us assuring that we are investing to grow achievement for every young New Zealander.
A question